Dear Chairman, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, I stand in full support of H.R. 1522, the Puerto Rico Statehood Admission Act, and to speak against H.R. 2070, the Puerto Rico Self-Determination Act. My reasons to support the Admission Act are simple. Respecting the will of Americans, as was expressed in the best self-determination mechanism a free country can offer, the ballot box. Enfranchising 3.3 million Americans not adequately represented in their government, and to provide full constitutional coverage and equal protection of laws for Americans in Puerto Rico. H.R. 1522 responds to the call Americans on the island made last November, when they voted yes to statehood in a referendum modeled after the ones held in Alaska and Hawaii before becoming states. Statehood received more votes than any political candidate or party. It won in all senatorial districts and in 33 of the 40 representative districts. And in the 8 that lost, yes to statehood still got more votes than the candidate elected. The plebiscite showed that support for statehood overcomes partisan politics, and that Puerto Ricans can differentiate between partisan politics and political status. Although the pro-status quo party won the legislature, that fact do not and must not erase or ignore that in the same elections, statehood won. I would like to remind people who object the results of the plebiscite because they say that 53% is not enough. It is the absolute majority of the electorate. With lesser margins, laws are passed, judicial and executive appointments are confirmed, and politicians, including presidents, are elected. That is called living in a democracy. The filing and co-sponsorship of the Admission Act tell 3 facts that speak for themselves. First, it was introduced by Puerto Rico's elected representative in Congress, not by other members representing other districts. Second, it shows that admitting Puerto Rico as a state is a bipartisan effort representing a diverse movement from all sides of the political spectrum. And third, 2 members co-sponsoring this bill hold the leadership positions in the House, Majority Leader Steny Hoyer and Republican Conference Chair Eddie Stefanik. The Self-Determination Act is flawed and contradictory for the following reasons. It says that the legislature of Puerto Rico has the inherent authority to call for a status convention, but ignores that by that same authority, our duly elected leaders have called for referendums. It says that it recognizes our natural right to self-determination, but ignores that Puerto Ricans themselves already exercise that right and chose statehood. It gives the fantasy that there are multiple options when there are only 2, statehood or independence. It is not time-bounded, complicates the issue with unfamiliar voting formats and unclear definitions of choices, and tries to bind Congress in a potential exercise of legislative entrenchment, therefore making the proposed referendum non-binding. Statehood means complete protection of the U.S. Constitution to more than 3 million Americans who somehow, just by living in the island, lose equal protection of many laws. It means equal justice under the law, self-government, and upholding the ideas and values upon the United States was founded, and for which thousands of Puerto Ricans have fought and died without being able to enjoy them on the island. Justice John Marshall Hanlon, dissenting in Dunn v. Bidwin in 1901, wrote that the idea that this country may acquire territories anywhere upon the earth, the people inhabiting them, to enjoy only such rights as Congress chooses to accord to them, is wholly inconsistent with the spirit and genius, as well as with the words of the Constitution. Justice Hanlon was known as the Great Dissenter for his dissenting opinions in cases that restricted civil rights. Dissenting in Plessy v. Ferguson, he argued that the Constitution was colorblind and that all citizens should have equal access to civil rights. In 1954, he was vindicated in Roe v. Wade of Education. And now it is up to you to vindicate once again a justice who stood in the right side of history.